The monsoons are here, and that only means one thing.
Lonavala. You wanna go to Lonavala? Lonavala. You wanna go to Lonavala? अरे भाई शुभम चल ना लोनावला एनीबडी वांट टू गो टू लोनावला चल लोनावला चल ना
क्यों?
मस्त वेदर है अच्छा है चल ना
कार में?
हाँ अरे क्या screw it I'll go alone.
And since it was closer to the end of the month, I decided to take the most frugal machine we had in our PD driveway.
An Ertiga CNG.
SUV engines undergo a lot of stress both in city driving and on tough terrains, particularly during warm-up, in stop-start traffic, and of course while carrying heavy loads. Ordinary car oils may not be enough for your SUV, and that is why we recommend fully synthetic Castrol Magnetec SUV for superior protection. Now the official figure says it gives me 26.11 kilometers per kg and it has a 60-litre fuel tank, and that is about, say, 10 kilos or so, maybe a little bit more.
At the risk of sounding extremely elitist, I didn't know CNG was $82 a kg, but well, they did run out of CNG actually. Strangely, I've never seen that happen before. Tank's not completely full, but I still have about 120 or so kilometers more of range now. So onwards.
Now just heading up to the hills of Lonavala would make a really boring video, so I thought, well, what better time to discuss some wetness?
Monsoons, I meant. And as awesome as this monsoon is, it's still one of the most dangerous times to get out on Indian roads, because not only do you have slippery surfaces or muck and stuff, you also have gigantic potholes that can swallow a manhole, and in general it's not a very great place to be. Which is why I can justify this drive to Lonavala, because I'm not just going to Lonavala because I am bored and have nothing to do in office and because the weather is great. It's because I want to make content that will actually keep you guys safe. Or at least that's the reason I'm going to give Rohan if and when he asks me.
So here are my top hacks to combat the monsoon. Visibility is key, and that means your headlight needs to be clean. A simple solution to keep that visibility up: spray some soap-based cleaner on your headlamps and wipe them down to make for a clean front end.
And talking about that front end, the fact that this is a CNG car isn't the only reason we've got it. This is also the first time that I've got my hands on the facelifted version of the Ertiga. And you know what? With this updated new sort of angular grille, it does look a little bit more premium, doesn't it? I've always said this in the past, the Ertiga is one of those all you will ever need in your life sort of Marutis. And with the upgrade or with the facelift, as we saw with the grille in the front, the interior gets a bit of a tart up too. I mean, you've got different fabrics that look a little more premium, and you've got a different faux wood finish which looks honestly a little metallic almost, but it looks rather interesting. And that brings me to my second hack: how to keep your interior as clean as possible on as little a budget in the monsoons.
Now do whatever you want, there is going to be some sort of heightened form of moisture inside in the monsoon. Wet feet, for example, and you don't want that sticking around. So newspaper again, just lay some out, but in a way that doesn't intrude your pedals.
Now, if one of God's showers has made you all drippy wet and moist, well, here's a trick that really seems to work. And I have been there and done that, and trust me, this is something I do all the time if I'm getting into the car wet, especially if you have cloth seats in your car. All you have to do is have a massive towel and drape it over the seat, and it really protects your fabric. It's so simple, isn't it? And trust me, this works.
Okay, enough faff. Let's drive again.
Now, with every CNG car, you get two power options. So there's one power figure when CNG runs your engine, which in this case is 86 horsepower and 121 Newton meters of torque. And then, of course, you got the other power figure when petrol runs the engine. So in this case, it's 99 horsepower and 136 Newton meters of torque. Now, I obviously wanted to switch the petrol option as much as I could because you know how we are, right? You want the most out of your engine. But I told myself, no. Cyrus, this is the first time that you've tested a CNG vehicle in your automotive journalistic career. Stick to how they are driven. Drive it like an owner would. Keep it in CNG and see what you get. So I did. I even hypermiled. I even stuck the speed limit on the Mumbai-Pune expressway, which I normally do as well. Sort of. Almost. And the funny thing is, I thought it'd be slow and cumbersome and I'd be bored after a while. And I am pleasantly surprised. No, I'm more than pleasantly surprised because not once, well, except for the really steep climbs, have I felt a lack in power. It feels normal to drive. It feels like I'm driving a petrol car. And that, to me, is strange because all my life I've been told that, well, CNG cars are very underpowered and you can't have your AC running when you have your CNG running. Now, that's all gone and done with. I've got the AC running, I've got Apple CarPlay playing my favorite tunes, Queen in this case. And it just feels like a normal drive that I'm on. And that is uncanny. But I'm guessing that is what progress has been all about in the CNG segment. Unsurprising then that Maruti's percentage or split in sales for CNG versus normal petrol is nearly 20% CNG, and that with just only a few cars getting that CNG option. Impressive.
And that brings me to my next hack, especially useful if you're driving on a multi-lane expressway like the one we have between Mumbai and Pune.
Nope, it has nothing to do with aligning your chakras. Just drive in the lane that's in the middle. Why? Well, because it's very simple. The one in the middle has the least chance of having water accumulated on it. The one on the sides, especially if you're on an expressway, you can get water on the sides, and that can cause a bit of a havoc if you hit that standing water at high speeds.
Now, if you aren't on a multi-lane expressway, your chances of hitting standing water around a blind curve or a dip are actually higher. So, simple solution, just drive slower than you normally would. And this means better reaction times. And trust me, this saves lives.
This is just such an honest little car. I mean, even with the CNG option, it still drives well. It drives like a Maruti. And you know what that means, right? It sort of puts a smile on people's faces. And that's important for a family car.
Of course, you do slightly miss out on boot space, but it's not as bad as you think. And if you do fold the seats flat, well, there's still a ton of space to play around with.
This one is pretty much common sense, and yet somehow not a lot of people use it. There's a button in your car with a defogger logo on it. Use it. And most cars get a defogger option for the rear as well. Use that. Remember what I said right in the beginning? Visibility is key. This helps. So use the damn function. Right then, so final tip, and we've almost reached our destination. So following that final tip will be a little conclusion as well.
People who splash other road users, people who use their hazard lights in the rain, people who drive with their high beams on in the rain. Don't be that guy. It's not cool.
Now that vista behind me is all worth the drive all the way up here alone, even though none of my colleagues seem to want to join me. That said, okay, let's get back to this car because it isn't my personal cup of fancy Starbucks green tea, but I recognize that for millions others in the country, it is a refreshing cup of cutting chai. It's affordable, it's cheerful, it's cheap to run, it's frugal, and it sets out to do, and it does what it sets out to do on the packaging. And for me personally, that is a very, very attractive quality in a car. I've just thought of an anecdote. This, the Ertiga CNG, is what RK Lakshman's common man would drive in 2022.